and welcome to the 23rd episode of the new podcast. My name is Steven, joined as always by producer extraordinaire Kelly. Let's get to it. No Morgan this weekend. He had a contractual obligation elsewhere, and we will see him on future episodes. A lot to get to from the fights this weekend and the world of news and MMA. Tons of shit going down. Obviously, all the Whitaker stuff. There was a Bellator card. And we're talking more Night Fight. This thing is turning cool. If you have not seen it, check it out. It's kind of was getting, how are they going to get any better than this? And they wowed me again. I digress, though. We'll talk a little bit more about that in the show. First thing I want to talk about, Kamaru Usman and Ben Askren get into a little bit backstage. Did you check that out, Kelly? Did you see it? Yeah, they got into it. It's like Askren, they obviously probably know each other through the collegiate wrestling world, as most Americans do, because they were both All-American, so I wouldn't doubt if at one time they had actually faced each other. And Askren had called him a name. I had replayed the video a few times. He called him a name like Bucky or something like that, and Usman took a great offense to this and got into his face, and people instantly, their handlers were instantly separating them, and Usman responds with, "I don't know you, do I know you?" You know what I mean? And it was very heated, so, could we see those two dudes go at it, same weight class, very similar style, and do they have some previous beef? It was actually kind of a cool little video of backstage beef people were talking about this week, was Ben Askren's attire and his Bitcoin commercial during that press conference. Everyone's kind of talking, this guy's a weird dude, but it's saying how he showed up like a science teacher to the press conference. Ben Askren, he's not called funky for nothing. Weird dude. But it was intense. I gotta say, it was a very intense little backstage stare down between those two dudes, and I would love to see them fight in the ring come the UFC. I think it's going to have to only happen if both of them lose their fights. I think that's the only thing. Hugest news, I think, is all the Colby Covington saga is turning ugly. I tell you what, you've been hearing about this, Kelly? He's saying now he is going to sue the UFC, and he may never fight. I'm not paraphrasing. Colby Covington saying, I may never fight in the UFC again after this. He obviously feels shafted about not getting the title shot, and now that Dana White has come out publicly saying he needs to fight somebody else before he gets the title shot, he's pissed off somebody. That's all I gotta say. The guy has pissed off somebody, because interim title shot means the belt. And he has now been leapfrogged upon leapfrogged, as we do see commonly in the UFC. But for one dude, I dislike his character. He's a total D-bag, but he cannot be discredited for his in-ring ability. One of the toughest 170s on the planet is Colby Covington, and one thing I like about him is actually his fighting style. For an All-American collegiate wrestler, it's kind of a theme. We got kind of a theme going on here. All these collegiate wrestlers. I'll talk a little bit more about that later on in the show, but for a guy like him to come out with the striking style that he has and just the tenacity that he possesses, dude's tough dude, and I hope to see him again. Does this mean this opens the door for a Bellator, which he would just wreck shop over there, obviously? But I hope this isn't the end of Colby Covington as we know it, and he moves ship or just says fuck it altogether and hangs them up. And which some fighters have done. If they can't fight at the UFC, they don't want to fight anywhere else. But he's lowering up. And that's what they're saying. He's getting a lawyer, and he's taking them to court for that title shot. Deservedly so. What do you think, Kelly? Do you think it's a wise move for Colby? I don't. Me personally, I think this has never panned out, as they had documented. All the people who have sued the UFC have not done well.
I was always told to pick my fights, and I think it would be easier for him to fight someone else to get that title shot than bring the UFC to court and try to get that title shot. It'd be an easier fight for him to just actually take the fight.
Great point, because he's going to get paid for that one, or the other one he's going to pay. He's going to pay no matter what. Great point on that one, man. And exactly that. Fight somebody and then prove them wrong, and then you really got some beef. You could be the Stone Cold of the UFC, the anti-establishment guy who just kicks the crap out of everyone. That's what his music should be when he comes out, to the glass breaking, and then Stone Cold coming out. But crazy news. I think it could be the biggest. Another bit of cool news coming out of the UFC, Amanda Nunes. A lot of people are talking that she's going to retire on top. But she has now recently said she has a vision. She wants that third title. Moving down to strawweight. I don't know if she could do it. That's a big weight cut for her, but it's against a girl who she's beaten in Shevchenko. And I think that's why she wants that third belt, and she sees it as an easy fight because she's already beat Shevchenko twice. But the rumor is that her next fight will be actually Holly Holmes in Brazil. And I like what UFC is doing here. If UFC is going to use some heavy Brazil cards, more power to them. They must sell out instantly in Brazil. I couldn't imagine what a ticket costs down there. But they're selling out these massive stadiums instantly. It's mega popular, as it has been for such a long time. And maybe we'll see more. 4 cards a year, 5 cards a year. We've already seen one, and there's definitely going to be more down the pipe. And we're only into February. I got nothing against them. The Brazilian fans are pretty cool. Their chants, obviously their nationalism towards their own fighters. I'm excited to see more cards in Brazil. And if Amanda Nunes can go down there and headline a card, wherever she's from, maybe Sao Paulo or obviously Rio, I think that's huge, and deservedly so. She's the toughest woman on the planet, bar none. But Holly Holmes, I think that, I guess they're just trying to put her up against somebody that she hasn't fought yet, and I think that's interesting as well. And I think Holly Holmes poses a threat as well. Very tough woman fighter in that division, and very game, especially when it comes to the striking. Her lankiness maybe could work against Nunes. Who knows? As history shows, we're probably going to see Nunes walk her down and maybe even use a little bit of ground and pound on this one. Actual Conor McGregor news. I'm not talking about his alleged kid that he has, his one-night stand that turned into a baby girl, or him being accused of sexual misconduct, or him doing drugs and having to be carried out of a pub in the early hours in the morning because he was so drunk. This is actual Conor news. He's actually changed teams. He's no longer going to be part of the SBK team. He has moved over to ATT Atlanta. Of all the ATTs, it's a good camp. Obviously, they have, they got a lot of dudes coming out there, but, not to go down to the ATT Florida, I thought was weird. Maybe he has beef with those guys down there. But moving over to ATT Atlanta, they're more of a strikers up there, so maybe that's why we saw him go over there. I think just moving over to America, having your camp in the States, is a smarter move, obviously. In America, especially when it comes to fighting, it's just the mecca when it comes to MMA. Like I said, I'm kind of building up a theme here on what I'm going to talk about later. But it all just happened, and it just all happens naturally. The one big announcement is apparent that both guys on Twitter, Conor McGregor and Cowboy Cerrone, have said now that they're coming out as they will be fighting at 155 for the interim title, while Khabib rests. And I guess it's kind of weird that they would give them interim when it comes to that, because I don't know why they would be getting interim, leapfrogging Tony Ferguson once again. Tony Ferguson being left out in the cold. Give this man something. Give him something. They've hashtagged the phrase Budweiser versus whiskey. Cowboy versus Conor McGregor. And obviously it's a money fight, with kind of a weird matchup for both those dudes. The thing that I thought was the most stupid thing about it is you're giving two guys an interim title when Conor lost his last fight, and he's only 2-2 in his last 4 fights. Cowboy at 155 has not had a great record. I think he's 2-5 in his last 7 fights at 155. So kind of a weird matchup to give both these dudes the popularity contest, the interim title. I just thought it was a really odd move. As I said, it's Twitter between these two dudes. They're both apparently saying it, though, so I could definitely see it being real. I hope it isn't. I would like to see that fight maybe down the road. The big news that broke last week was Anthony Rumble Johnson signing with the Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship, but not in the fighting aspect, obviously, more of in a backstage role. But he has come out now and said, For the right price, I will fight. And it will be at heavyweight. I feel sorry for any dude who's got to box him bare-knuckled at heavyweight. Super badass Anthony Rumble Johnson. They obviously don't have the same. They don't have the same piss testing. USADA isn't at these bare-knuckle boxing places. So
that's what he was good at. He wasn't really a wrestler. He was a striker.
Exactly. He's just going to demolish anyone's. Maybe put him up against Sean Merriman. I think that'd be kind of cool, the former football player. I think that'd be cool. Two massive dudes just going toe-to-toe, bare-knuckle. I think really a lot of people would watch that fight too. But obviously I think that's what he realizes is he's such a huge draw that he's going to want to get paid before he steps into that ring to bare-knuckle fight. That's a dangerous situation, and good on him. Guy had amazing fights. I thought he retired far too early, but he obviously had something very lucrative on the side to be able to step away from MMA. And you know what? Maybe this break will help his longevity. But a dude who is a killer in the ring and a great spokesman outside of it, Anthony Rumble Johnson, could be moving to heavyweight. And there is a rumor that he is in talks with Dana White, but he had said himself, Dana White's a businessman and he'll wait for the right time. So, if we maybe see him win a few fights in this bare knuckle thing, he comes over as a heavyweight at the UFC, and that'd be great matchups to see with him fighting any dude at heavyweight. One thing that, with all the lead up to UFC 234, obviously everyone's been talking to Israel about different things, and one thing that he wants to do is, I got to talk to you about this, Kelly. He wants to bring UFC to Africa. I thought that's really cool. That's how you kind of put yourself on the map, is when you're going to these more remote locales, tougher to get to place. But I think the potential is so huge. Massive population in tons of different countries in Africa. Obviously, the gate would have to be, cheaper, just because of the people there don't have a lower living wage, and I think you'd obviously want to have everyone come to the fights, and even if the likes of South Africa or Egypt, it's just different scale over there of how their money goes. But that's why I got to ask you, Kelly. Where do you think, out of all the African countries, where do you think they land?
I mean, South Africa is pretty nice.
Yeah, exactly. I think that was the number one that was the number one idea I had too. Exactly, with Cape Town, South Africa. That's the easiest one. It's probably the most technologically advanced one out of all the countries in Africa. So I think that's an easy one too. Easy airport to get to. It's down there in Cape Town, so that's an easy one. But I think it'd be cool if they went to like Morocco. Or Egypt even, I think would be really cool. Somewhere around there. I don't think you'd be allowed to ring girls in Egypt. I think that's the only problem. Tons of places in Africa, but I think it just really opens a cool, untapped potential for the UFC to move into Africa. They've had a ton of great fighters come out of Africa, and I think if you do one of these things and a little kid hears about it or ends up, somehow going to an event and thinking, oh, this is the coolest thing, this is what I want to do, and then you see that guy, that's the kind of shit you want to see, is that actually going to these countries and making a difference and inspiring youth to do more, and for them to realize that anything is possible if you put the work in. And I think that you're going to come out with some great ass stuff moving over to Africa, any kind of country. They don't go to Asia enough too. Especially the South Asia. Maybe do a show in India or a show in Mongolia, something cool like that. UFC is just, they got so much rain, and they apparently they had a report that they had made huge money last year, like in the billions. So it's making money, and I think obviously it's the side effect of not really paying the fighters huge. They're not paying like boxing numbers, and I think that's just the reason why you still see those lower level guys only getting $15,000 for an undercard fight. That's piss. Really, those guys definitely need a full-time job and then to train as well. But I guess that's the nature of the beast. But I would like to see fighters get paid more, and that's really been a lot of talk this week as well about fighter pay. And let's see what happens with that coming down the road. Talking night fight here. Crazy battle. It was a fucking nuts battle. Same thing, starting off with 6 dudes, and this guy with this really cool helmet. This is kind of, you see all these people with their own cool shit that they have, and this one guy was huge, and he just got smashed right in the back in it was like the second heat or something, and he really got messed up. But he was a big dude, and someone just cranked him right in the back and then cranked him right in the ribs, and he had no choice to go down. He was kind of hurt for the next round. So then he was in the bottom 3 to go for the final 2-on-2 spot against these two smaller dudes, and he was towering. So these little dudes thought, we'll team up on this guy. And he's already hurt. We'll team up on him, take him out, and then we'll fight each other. Didn't turn out that way. This dude beat the fuck out of both of them, hurt and injured because he was so much bigger, and it was fucking crazy. There was this crazy scene where he just bull rushes over both of them. Dude was huge, and that's what we see here is with these gauntlets, is these dudes who are throwing the punches are the guys who are making it to the next round. And this dude knew how to throw punches with his gauntlets, and he was a big guy, and it was just I was amazed. I thought, oh man, this guy's gonna get murdered now. He's hurt. These two guys are out to get him. No, he turned it around. I thought, man, I was on the edge of my seat. I like I said, I thought the show was maybe getting a little stagnant for me, but that really got me going again. It was a good 2-on-2 battle too. The Visigoths versus the Barbarians this time. And the same dude, guy gets his redemption. His name was Paul Friedel. And same dude, he comes in like a fucking wrecking ball in the team battles. And him and his buddy are just running these guys over, just manhandling them, going for cool takedowns, going for punches. It really, you know what I mean? I'm almost wondering if you were just to go in there, just straight up fists, no weapons. Straight up fists, maybe some kind of extra chunkiness on your punches. Because anyone who throws a punch, it just really messes up. The weapons don't have as much impact as a punch, just because they're blunted, and your arm is made to glance off. And so maybe that's where we're, maybe we'll see a guy come out with just that. I would love to see that. And of course, the advances to the final round, going from the wild card to the final round against. It was kind of a really cool because the guy who was fighting, his name was Brandon Knight. That was his last name, was actually Knight. And he was really renowned on this whole night fighting scene. And what was kind of cool is that this Brandon Knight had and this Paul Friedel guy, they had history where Brandon Knight had beaten him 3 times. And so he always had his number. And here he is, coming from the comeback, comes in, and with the revenge on the line, he wins it with punches and grappling. That's what we really saw, because he really went for this awesome trip takedown. And the other guy second takedown, he just was too gassed. He was just too gassed to get up with all that armor on. He was just too gassed. And now we have this dude moving on to the final with that Bam Bam guy and the other guy from the first show. This show is good. The finale I am super hyped for, because now we have 3 dudes who beat the whole field of 6 guys, all going in at 6 at the same time. It's going to be best of the best, like an all-star match. And already the 3 are in there. I'm like, holy shit, these guys are super tough. This is going to be an amazing final round. I can't wait. Show's a great show. They really, really put it together really, really well. And they have like the little bit behind the scenes stuff with their armor and shit like that, like their armor fixing stuff for them or helping them out with their own armor. Because most of these dudes aren't armorers themselves. They have to take this crap to an armorer and get it fixed for a fee. And here the show is not only paying them to be on the show, I'm sure even the losers get some kind of nominal fee for showing up. With the winners winning $10,000 to have the armor work on all your armor and fix it for you. Great show for these guys. Like I said in earlier episodes, they've obviously done this for free. They have obviously had to pay you know what I mean? To travel, to get their stuff fixed, to build their swords, all that stuff. They've obviously had to pay. I couldn't imagine any of these guys making money from this. And here they are. It's a really cool little sport. Let's talk some Bellator. Pitbull versus Scope. Bellator Newcastle. Didn't catch it. We can do a little breakdown on it. I saw a bunch of the highlights. Wasn't the best of cards. That's why I wasn't like, oh, I really need to watch this. And plus it was on DAZN too, which is, so it just makes it a little harder for me if I don't have DAZN to watch. Great streaming service, so I think DAZN's really going to take over here coming down the pipe here. Jim Wallhead goes to decision. They're bringing back an old Bellator guy with him on the card. Super massive card where they have 15 fights. A lot of undercards guys, This is definitely one of their building talent shows with the likes, obviously, of Callum Eleanor. He was actually a good fighter. He's fought a few times on Bellator. Could be good to see that guy. He actually won his fight by rear naked choke. Fabian Edwards wins against Lee Chadwick. I think he's been on a bunch of Bellators as well, and every time they go to the UK here. The one fight, though, the main talk about the Geordie Shore guy, Aaron Chalmers, loses to Corey Browning. And I think it's just one of those cases where we see these dudes come in and just once they can weather that storm, punches. And Browning took a bunch. He got dummied a few times and just did not go out. And then managed to get a slick heel hook against Aaron Chalmers, a good little technique against a guy who probably never worked on heel hooks. He probably thought, I don't need heel hooks. I'm just going to knock some dude out. I don't need to worry about defending against heel hooks. But obviously Chalmers was quite gassed come the beginning of the third. And here he gets tapped out by an easy heel hook from Corey Browning. Let's take a look here. Let's dive into it here. 6 degrees of separation. Corey Browning. So he's American too. Okay, they always have a tough time against Americans. Make him tough down there. He's from Tennessee. He was only 4-1 as well, so a good matchup because he would have been 3-1. Oh, it was the guy who beat Kimbo Slice. That's what they were saying. It was the guy who beat Baby Slice. I remember in Baby Slice's terrible match. You remember the one where he's super gassed out and lost it? It was the same guy. That's I kind of thought that was the same guy. Yeah, it is him. Now this guy's Corey the Celebrity Killer Browning, coming through with a big win of that heel hook. And now he's going to get a big fight. Maybe they'll give him Ryan Couture, something like that. I think that'd be a good fight for him coming up next. Who did he lose? He lost to Aaron Hall in Valor fights, but that's about it. You know what I mean? Making some good... I never forget he like one of the worst, they always like talk about the guy, Kelly, when he's coming to the ring, he's like, he's won like 2 golds in Pan American Games, or, he's a Golden Glove boxer or something like that. This guy, his stepdad is a black belt in jiu-jitsu.
Wow.
That's not a stat about you. And the guy has no blood connection to you either. He's your stepdad. So he's not even blood of yours. You know what I mean? So I don't know I don't know what they were going with. Bellator didn't do very much digging when they went to this guy. So and I think his other stat was he was versed in jiu-jitsu. Versed. He doesn't even got a belt. But 2 wins in a row.
He does some YouTube videos.
And it's turning out he must be watching the right ones because he's won 2 in a row.
Nice.
But obviously the competition he fought. So now the talk is going to be the 2 losers. Aaron Chalmers will be taking on Baby Slice. I think that's a great matchup for both those guys. But do you kind of kill both of them? You know what I mean? They both got a loss. And I think losses build characters especially for young fighters. These guys who go 20-0, they go 15-0, that really must weigh on you. That's got to be the biggest stress killer of losing. When you're already at such high heights to lose because you've never felt that before. And now you're 20 wins in and you've never felt a loss before. So, what do you do? And some people, it breaks some people, that's for damn sure. That brings us to the main event of the evening. Patricky Pitbull Frary versus Ryan Tastes Like Scope. Ryan Listerine Scope. Or I guess Ryan Mouthwash. No, that doesn't work.
Reaching a little too far.
Yeah, I'm going reaching on that one. I'm just hard to reach. I didn't really plan out what I was going to do for his nickname. It's so easy though, but I thought it'd become a little easier. Very boring fight. I don't know if I caught the highlights. It was pretty rough to watch. A little bit of back and forth. They had a few high octane moments there, but other than that, it wasn't a great fight to watch. Pitbull comes away with a split decision. In a fight that he should have easily won. Ryan Scope going back down. I don't know who this Ryan Scope guy is. Let's check him out. Let's dig into it here. 6 degrees of separation. Ryan Scope. Oh, wow. Terrible nickname. Ryan Big Baby Scope. Big Baby. Terrible nickname. He's from England, so I guess they have him as the local guy. He's got a few split decisions. He won his fight before that by a split decision. He's fought out of the BAMA organization, obviously, in Britain. Lost to Lewis Long. Doesn't really have anybody on his record that really stands out. Yeah, he had a pretty good record before that, though. Obviously, fighting exclusively out of the UK, 10-2. I think he'll come back. He'll definitely get another fight on a British card or an Irish card when they go back. Let's talk some UFC. UFC 234, Adesanya versus Silva. Losing the headliner was rough, man. That fucking sucked. It was such a build-up to that card. With the show and, how everything is going up to the weeks. And I don't know if you saw the pictures, Kelly, but a lot of the shit that was circling around was that Kevin Gastelum was actually had to pull out because he had herpes straight up. He had cold sores on his face.
Gross.
Yeah, super gross. And he must have got some kind of pills because he must have got something heavy duty because he got it cleared up pretty quickly, and all you could see was just like a kind of like a better looking scab. But he showed up with like 2 huge sores. But the most concerning thing was he had something right on the back of his neck, and it looked like a bad kind of one hell of a bad skin blister or a boil or something. But it looked disgusting. Whatever it was something from being on the mat with somebody gross. And that's, Kevin Randleman got super sick from that shit.
Yeah, staph infections.
Ugh.
That guy got super herpes. That's what he got. Damn.
Exactly. He got super herpes, exactly. And that's what was funny, is that Jorge Masvidal, he's always posting clickbait stuff on his Facebook stuff. I love Jorge Masvidal as a fighter. One of my most favorite fighters of all time. Well documented on this show. And his Facebook page used to be fucking amazing. It used to be tons and tons of different fights, and you didn't have to click through all the bullshit and the screen redirecting you for no reason at all. He had underground fights, street fights, bare knuckle fights, all different types of fights all the time. Now he just got a ton of clickbait. So when he posted the Gaslam one, I thought, oh yeah, it's clickbait. Nothing came of it. But I shit you not, he was the first person to break Robert Whittaker pulling out. I shit you not, because when I first read it on Jorge's site, I thought, oh, fucking clickbait again. Clickbait again. And I searched it up. I even Googled it. I looked up SureDog. Nothing about it. Nothing about it. Hour later, Robert Whittaker's pulled out. Fight's canceled. I couldn't fucking believe it. I couldn't believe it. The clickbait is true, people. The clickbait is true. That's the shitty thing. He's right a certain percentage of the time on this crap. So now you have to believe it a little bit. You know what I mean? It's not just all crappy clickbait. Some of it is true. But obviously losing that fight was such a kick in the pants. I really wanted to see that. I really wanted to see that fight really, really bad, especially in Australia. I feel sorry for those Australian fans. You know what I mean? To have to go into there knowing that your hometown guy isn't going to be fighting. I thought, man, that must suck. Obviously having Anderson Silva and Israel is the co-main event, now the main event, it's an okay second, but now you have this big event at this massive arena, and you don't have any belt on the line, and the rest of the card wasn't that great, to tell you the truth. It was a big letdown weekend, I can tell you that much, man, with fights, and just nothing led up to it. You know what I mean? You used to get this all the time. In the earlier days of MMA, the early 2000s of MMA, I remember being so hyped for a card, and you go and you watch it, all your buddies, and it's a stinker. You know what I mean? It's an absolute fucking stinker. It is nothing. No one stood out, really. We had some good ones in the UFC. The Bellator one obviously sucked, but we had some good ones in the UFC. But still, it didn't live up to the hype. And we have a perfect example of it here. There were some good ones. I think the one that really stood out was the rear naked choke by Kung Ho Kang versus Ishihara. Super sad loss for Ishihara. That's basically it for him. I highly, highly doubt he gets another UFC fight. I think that's got to be his 4th loss in a row, especially to lose to a lower level dude. Kang is a tough dude, too. It's his 3rd loss in a row, but still, he's lost. He's only won 1 out of 6 fights in his UFC venture. Oh, he's got a few other wins in UFC, but still, 1 out of his last 6 fights is he won. He's now 10-7. That's a tough pill to swallow for Ishihara. And it was so shitty because I thought this dude came out with so much potential coming out of the Ultimate Fighter Japan and having that draw against Mizuruto Hirota, the Pugness. It was just, I thought he had the potential coming. The potential was sky high for this guy. And we don't see it here. What other one was good? Oh, the Devontae Smith versus Dong Hyun Ma. That was actually a really good fight too. Quick KO. I think he actually won. Got the bonus for the one of the performance bonuses, obviously, for that knockout. Crazy knockout on that one. And I can't remember who won the other one. I think it was Kung Ho Kang for that rear naked choke. That was a nasty rear naked choke. He had the dude's arm trapped. He had no chance but to just basically pass out. He didn't even want to tap. He'd rather pass out, I guess. Never a good decision to go with, I can tell you that much. So we just see a lot of decisions through it. A few finishes. The Crute versus Sam Alvey. I didn't think it was a... Did you catch that? Did you manage to catch that one later on? Kelly, it was actually, Smiling Sam Alvey, great fighter. Very game dude. He's obviously in the twilight of his career, and Crut's on the exact opposite. Crut's on his way up in his career, and we see, I don't know. I don't like them when they stop fights when the guy's kind of getting up. He wasn't slumped face down, but I think we're erring on the side of caution here again. And the ref really had no choice. He was, on all fours, kind of just eating shots. His head wasn't against the mat, and he was kind of starting to get up. But the ref's not going to let you sit there and eat 4 punches to the side of the head. But on the replay, it looks like a lot of those were actually deflected. So, tough call. The ref's got to err on the side of caution. And Sam Alvey gets up and instantly protests that he's okay, and he was super upset afterwards, obviously because he's not getting as much money as he would have. And a winnable fight, but I think he just got tagged one too many times in that one. Crute was just too strong on the feet. And, Sam Alvey's not a great stand-up guy. Take a look at this Jim Crute guy, because I think he could have actually pretty damn good. Yeah, he's 10-0 now. Yeah, I could have swore he was undefeated. Great record, 10-0. Adding Sam Alvey, and even having the finish of Paul Craig too. That's actually a good finish too. Beating him by Kimura. Paul Craig's a great grappler. And then he was on the Tuesday Night Contenders Series. Knocked that dude out too. He's fighting out of Australia. Dude's 10-0. This guy's coming. Watch out, dude. He's at 205. I could have swore this was... Oh, yeah, Sam Alvey is 205. Jim the Brute Crute. Good nickname. He's got a good nickname, too. This guy's going places. He's got the nickname down. 10-0. Good start. And beating guys like Sam Alvey and Paul Craig, those are great stepping stones to build up your confidence with this UFC roster. I don't know how he looks like a small 205. I could definitely see him being better suited at 185, but he's a pretty wide little dude, so I don't know if he's going to be able to make that weight cut. And usually, you see time and time again, that weight cut can be a killer. One huge mismatch we see here, and we've seen it with this new matchmaker, and especially with the women's division. Montana De La Rosa versus Nadia Kassem. This was a fucking beatdown. One-sided beatdown. Kassem was super small compared to De La Rosa, and she had no ground game. She had no stand-up game. I kind of was wondering what this girl was even doing at this level of fighting. I guess she's some kind of Australian champion, and is actually beat up. She was actually 5-0 going into that fight, but I just didn't see it. I saw an MMA fighter, and I saw a person who's kind of a kickboxer, took a few judo classes or something. I just saw an absolute one-sided beatdown in that match. And Montana De La Rosa, she did what she had to do, but I think I got to see her up against tougher competition before I can make a decision on her skill level. That was very one-sided. Super snorefest in Ricky Simon versus Rani Yahya. That was rough. That was a rough one to watch, with Yahya just lying down, wanting to go to the ground. Obviously, the guy's like a mega black belt, black belt master in jiu-jitsu, and obviously that's what we see here with that one there. The Lando fight, that kind of saved the card. I'll give it that. Lando Venata versus Marco Rojas Mariano. That was actually a really good fight. Those guys were really going back and forth, and that was a real slick Kimura by Venata. Really, really good. And this dude's tough, too. I can't remember where I saw him before. I think it was Sean Strickland, if my memory serves me right. I think he fought Sean Strickland in Brazil. No, my memory did not serve me right on that one. He's got an up and down, a few draws. Wow, he's got 2 draws in the UFC. That's odd to have. Lando Groovy Venata, fighting out of New Jersey. I think he's actually Brazilian, though. A lot of the Brazilians move up to New Jersey for the training camps up there, and that's the same place. I could be mistaken. Maybe he's an American. That's the same place that Frankie Edgar's from, Tom's Rivers. Something in the water in that river, I tell you what, making all these tough fighters. Let's see, he lost to Tony Ferguson in his first UFC fight, beat John Makdessi with a spinning wheel kick, loses to David Teemer. That was a tough fight, I can imagine, going to decision there. Goes to split draw against Bobby Green. That's a tough one, too. Losing to Drakkar Klose, too. All these guys have really got a lot of 6 degrees of separation. All these dudes have fought each other. Goes to another draw, majority draw against Matt Furvola, and then getting the Kimura. What a weird roundabout way to get into the win column here. His record doesn't look that good, though, with his last 6 fights, 2 wins, 2 losses, 2 draws. So kind of, who can say that? Very weird. Fighting in 155. I want to see more of this Lando guy. I can't wait to see who they put in front of him next at 155. And it really adds a lot more flavor to the 155 division. And that unfortunately brings us to our main event of the evening. Israel Adesanya versus Anderson Silva. Shitty that was only a 3-round, but obviously that's what their contract had stated. Can't just change it up to a 5-round. I'm sure they both wanted more money, and then the UFC said no. We still have to pay Gastelum and have to pay Anderson Silva. The fight kind of stunk, to tell you the truth. I think we may have seen a little bit of a better Anderson Silva. That's not saying much. You know what I mean, Kelly? That's not saying much from what we've seen from Anderson Silva. I think the last time we really saw an aggressive Anderson Silva was Michael Bisping. Yeah. And that was quite some time. And he still lost that fight. And that was still quite some time ago. And I thought we saw a little bit of it here. He did take some shots. He took some shots, ate him clean. We saw him attack a little bit, but obviously Israel is so quick. He really couldn't do much, and wisely so, because if he would have kept on chasing after him, I'm sure Israel would have put his lights out, just with how good of a counterpuncher he is. Anderson Silva losing the decision. I guess it's kind of, maybe we were saved, really, Kelly, that it wasn't a 5-round fight, because that could have been pretty boring. The part I didn't like was when Anderson was kind of like, kick my leg. You know what I mean? Like he was like, had his back against the cage, and he was like, kick my leg. Go ahead, kick it. Like, you're going to have him kick your leg? You guys get into a leg kicking fight here? This is supposed to be a fight that people are trying to watch here. Maybe I was upset because I put money on Anderson Silva. But the odds were just so huge. I had to put it on him, you know what I mean? Just like, like Bisping beating Luke Rockhold. Same odds. There was the same odds, where he lost to him before. And I should have put money on that one. That would have been one you could have really cleaned up on. But this one here, the odds were so wacky. I had to give it a shot, but obviously it didn't pan out. But it was a rough fight. Obviously, main event didn't do it. There was a bit too much of respect going on between those dudes. But to win fight of the night, too, they got a bonus too. You know what I mean? Like, what the hell? They just handing out these bonuses? Like, that was not a fight of the night. Like, the card wasn't that good, and you're going to hand it out to them? I didn't see a fight of the night candidate. Adesanya was kind of too scared to punch, and he really did land some good ones, and then Anderson was too busy dancing, and it was odd. It just really sucked. But giving Gastelum, I thought one of the weird things about that night was giving Kevin Gastelum the title, the interim title. He's now the interim 185-pound champ.
Say what?
I know. Exactly. I thought that was a weird move. I thought that was a really weird move. I know that Robert Whittaker, they have done this before in the past. Like, say if the guy can't make the weight cut 2 times in a row, they'll give it to him. And I think maybe that's what they're doing here, because Whittaker pulled out last second for his fight before this one, too. I can't remember. Luke Rockhold. He was supposed to fight Luke Rockhold, and he got injured last second, pulled out. And then he fights, this one here. He gets injured. I'm doing air quotes here, and then pulls out. I'm not doubting he wasn't injured. But for me to believe, as an MMA fan, as a viewer, as a person who is paid for this pay-per-view, that a guy who had to go through a piss test, a guy who had to go through a physical, he goes through the weigh-ins. He goes and gets weighed. I'm sure he has to do another physical then. He has to go, get his heart rate test and tons of stuff. They got to do tons of stuff that make sure you're physically fit to step on the scale. And then I think it was 2 hours before the gate opens. I'm injured. I can't do it. Got a hernia. Bullshit. I'm calling bullshit on that. Something's up, UFC. You're turning into some boxing fake ass shit here with this stuff, and I don't like it. It doesn't smell right. And where there's smoke, there's fire. And I'm seeing a lot of smoke come out of this bullshit here. And maybe because it's more of a lower card that no one cares about it. I care about it because I wanted to see those two dudes fight. And if he was injured a week ago, they should have made him injured a week ago. And then the card would have sucked. Obviously, a lot of people wouldn't have paid for the pay-per-view. A lot of people wouldn't have went to the bar to go watch it. A lot of people in Australia wouldn't have showed up to go actually sit down, buy a hot dog, buy a beer, and watch a 3-round main event. I can tell you that much. And I think that's obviously what the UFC did here. They said, no, be quiet. Everyone be quiet. Everyone be quiet because we got to try to milk as much money out of this shitty card as we can. We weren't prepared. And here we go with this. I call bullshit on that. Let's just take a quick look at Anderson Silva. I think we may have taken a look at him recently here. But kind of just leaves me in who he's going to be fighting next. It's not a good-looking loss to Chris Weidman, obviously, twice in a row. The draw, it was overturned. No contest against Nick Diaz. Losing to Bisping when he kind of won that one. The last-second replacement in Daniel Cormier, that was more of an exhibition. That fight sucked. Beating Derek Brunson when a lot of people had Derek Brunson winning that one. And now here losing to Israel. He hasn't been knocked out in a long time. And, maybe that's good for him. He's taking it more lighter. He, had that little bit of that breakdown at the weigh-ins, where it was a big deal for him to be fighting a young guy like this. It's obviously got to mean a lot to fight someone who, started fighting because of you as well. So that's obviously got to mean a lot too. But the hugest rumor coming out after this one, and Conor just throwing everything around on Twitter. That's why I think he's whacked out. He's throwing all this shit around on Twitter because Anderson Silva had said the only fight that makes sense for him is Nick Diaz in Brazil. And Conor instantly glommed onto that and said, if you fight Nick Diaz in Brazil, I'll fight Nate Diaz in Brazil. And I think we're seeing a little bit more of the promoter Conor McGregor here with this one because that fight makes sense all around. That fight.
But does Dana pay him the money? Like, Nate wants so much money to fight now. Like, a ridiculous amount. So whether Dana will actually pay him the money or not, or just be like, hey man, just fight Donald. You're making the same amount of money, fight Donald, he's cheaper.
That's true. Yeah, I could totally see that. And this is a great point you make, Kelly, because who else wants a lot of money? Nick Diaz. Both those guys want a ton of money. And surprise, surprise, Conor wants a ton of money too? And Anderson Silva, they all want a ton of money? You know what I mean? So I totally agree with you. So to have those two fights taking up millions of dollars, like a lot of millions, tens of millions, you know what I mean? All those guys are going to want $10 million each. Yeah. I can almost guarantee that. You know what I mean? And then you have to have like a main event still. You'd have to have a title shot or something like that. Maybe have Nunez as the title shot for that one. That card makes sense. But I think that's too much money on the table.
And then you're setting a new precedent for how much you're paying your fighters. All these fighters can be like, oh man, all these guys got $10 million. I think I'm worth a little more than $500,000.
Oh, for sure. You're going to get people talking about records. Oh, my record's better. My record's this. You're going to see in college football, hey, your record may be better, but you only fought bums. You didn't fight anybody. And then this guy's like, no, my record is much more valued. Even though I have a few losses, I still have beaten topper quality fighters. So I think that's it's a slippery slope. I agree with you on that, Kelly. It's a slippery slope, man. But obviously as a fan, I think that fight makes sense to watch.
Oh yeah, I want to see that.
Exactly, and I think it's easy for both of those guys. I think it's a bit easier for Conor too because it doesn't mean as much. I think giving him top level competition, if you were to give him Tony Ferguson or even Frankie Edgar, I think could be a bad choice for the UFC to really, he's going to lose his next fight. I can guarantee you that much.
If that does happen, though, it should have been UFC 209. UFC 209, Diaz.
In the past. Back to the future. UFC. Man, Anderson Silva not doing too well. And I think, I guess he wants kind of a redemption fight against Nick Diaz. I don't think Nick Diaz takes that. There's a new show with Dominic Cruz, Gilbert Melendez, and somebody else is in it too. I can't remember who. I think it's Luke Rockhold's on the show too. But they kind of break down the fights. Just now it's on ESPN. ESPN's really getting a lot of going behind him with a lot of different side shows and explaining it as well. I think we're past the point of explaining it. I think obviously the rules are still good for a refresher, but I think we're past the point of explaining. You got to explain the goddamn rules every time. It's like you're babying the people. This is a sport. You don't have to explain the rules of football. You don't have to explain the rules of basketball before every game. I think you don't want to go with that, but I think they're kind of just more breaking it down, the keys to success in these fights, and I think it's good. But in that show, someone had asked Gilbert Melendez about Nick Diaz, and he said, last time I checked, he's retired. So maybe we'll see that. I think he's just commenting on how much money he has made, what he's doing, his businesses, his side gigs. He's obviously invested his money very wisely, and judging by how drunk he is all the time, he's doing very good. That's what I would do. That's what I would do. I'd just be going to Vegas getting drunk all the time. Especially, if you live in California, you're so close. Why not? Let's just do a breakdown before we go into the break. Breakdown. It's the first UFC on ESPN 1. Ngannou versus Velasquez. This is coming up this Saturday. Can't wait. Now, this is a fight we're going to be just absolutely enjoy to its fullest. Cain Velasquez versus Francis Ngannou as the main event. I pray that none of those dudes get injured. Could happen. Paul Felder versus James Vick coming up. That's going to be a really good one. Really good one. I like Paul Felder, especially James Vick's comeback fight after losing to Gaethje, where he said he had the worst weight cut of his career coming. And then even Cynthia Calvillo too. Wow, this is actually a good fight. A good card against Courtney Casey Sanchez. It's Arizona too. You think they would go to so many good fighters come out of Arizona. American thing, it's very strong college wrestling town. Not a lot to do there, I guess. It's pretty hot during most of the time. You can't be outside since it's so hot, I guess. Kron Gracie makes his UFC debut against Alex Caceres, another backyard fighting dude. This card's actually pretty stacked. Even Brian Barberino, I think he's from Arizona, takes on Vincent Luge. Miles Jury, another Arizona guy, against Andrei Touchyphili. Azerman Sterling's on this card against Jimmy Rivera. Holy shit, this card is fucking stacked. Battle of the dudes who got both knocked out by Marlon Moraes. Jimmy Rivera taking on Azerman Sterling and the undercard, no doubt. Pretty fucking stacked card for a free card. Manny Bermudez versus Benito Lopez. Battle of the undefeated dudes. That should be actually a good fight. Andrea Lee versus Ashley Evans Smith. Well, that's actually a fucking really good card. Nick the Carney Lentz makes his return against Scott Holzman. Not a big fan of Nick Lentz. Not a big fan of him. He's another one of those dudes who says he's the best fighter in the world and he loses all the time. Even Renan Barao. Wow. Fuck, this card is stacked. Jessica Penne is on it too. Wow. Fuck. Stacked right top to bottom. Toe up from the flow up. Super excited. We'll have our breakdown next show. Show 24 coming up next week. And we'll let you know everything that happens on that one. Super excited. Free card too. Not for you Americans though. Yeah, it's a good time to take a break. Let's take a little breather here. We'll be right back after these brief messages.
Do you wish you could ride a motorcycle, but you don't have your motorcycle license? Buy a Ruckus. It's like a motorcycle, but cooler. Lots of accessories. Mod the shit out of that thing.
Buy your Ruckus today and ride out on the horizon. The Honda Ruckus. Cheap on gas.
48 kilometers per liter.
And hauls ass.
Not really. It could haul your ass, just not two people's asses.
Not recommended for both asses. We'll kick the ass of a Vespa. Do not drive your Ruckus in water. It may look like a boat, but it is not a boat.
Ruckus, not a boat. Mandarin oranges. Nature's candy. Have one today. Unless they're out of stock because they're not in season anymore.
Enjoy mandarin oranges on your Ruckus. Just make sure to have a passenger peel them for you. Ruckus and mandarin oranges. A combo since 1802. Doesn't even make sense. Water. It makes snow.
Fuck!
It is difficult to ride your Ruckus in snow. Drink water while riding your Ruckus. Do not attempt to ride it in snow. You gotta get a cup holder. Snow. You can make snowballs. Snow bases. And don't forget to give them a good old-fashioned face wash. Snow! It sucks! And welcome back to the show, folks. Hope you enjoyed our commercials. And go get yourself a tall, cold glass of water on the house. With everything I've been talking about this week, I kind of was sprinkling in a little bit. If you've been paying attention to the show, I've been sprinkling a little bit about what the take is for this week. And it just brought to my attention kind of piqued my interest with Israel talking about an African UFC. But what is it that makes America such a dominant force at the UFC? Let's be honest here. You know what I mean? Americans have all the toughest fighters. They always have the most fighters. Like if you were to do like an Olympics of MMA, America would have such a huge talent pool. Other countries would have a few good guys, but America would have a contender at every single weight class. Obviously, with the likes of John Jones, number one right there, Daniel Cormier, and these are American as American gets. But what is that one thing that all these guys have in common, Kelly? Wrestling, American college wrestling. Is that what makes them good? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Is that the sole purpose? The collegiate wrestling, freestyle wrestling training curriculum that they go through in college, and how crazy they are, how publicly funded it is, how crazy they are for their American wrestlings and their collegiate sports as a whole. Americans love their sports, and especially at the collegiate level. And I think that's what we see these athletes getting the highest quality of training. That's really where it is. Is that though? You know what I mean? Why aren't these other countries pushing out this same level of training, and how that translates over to MMA when it comes to, because you're not seeing MMA in college. You know what I mean? They could join a gym and do shit like that, but you're not seeing it on any kind of level where like an Olympic level, obviously. I don't think we ever will see a college MMA kind of curriculum. I highly doubt we would ever see that, but I think what these people are taking to MMA, and it's working so well, is their training routines and just how regimented their training is and how serious they take it, honestly. But I think it also, what it is the competition. You know what I mean? I think that's really what makes these tough guys too, is obviously, which leads to population. You know what I'm saying? Other countries don't have the population like we do in Canada. There's more people in New York City than there is in all of Canada. You know what I mean? So put that in perspective. Same with, there's more people in the state of California than there is in all of Canada. The whole shebang. You know what I mean? So they obviously have the competition that leads up with the population. You just are always being challenged more, I guess, and you have more dudes to compete with and more women to compete with when you're on that, especially when it comes to the American wrestling. Is it diet? Something in that milk. You know what I'm saying? Something in that milk, man. The steroid milk, you know what I mean? Something in the diet. Could that be it? Is it something in the cheese? Americans love their cheese. Fill me in, America. You know what I mean? But I think there is just something in every little aspect of that country that makes great fighters. And it's an odd fact. Just you can name tons and tons of great fighters from America. You can still name tons of fighters internationally or from Canada, you know what I mean? But obviously the list isn't as long. And that's really what it is. I think it's immigration obviously plays a huge part in that as well. It's such a melting pot, much like we are here in Canada. So you see more interracial kids, and those kids gain the strengths of generations, and I think that's really where you see a lot of it as well. Just with the mingling of the different cultures. And that brings a different aspect to the table. That brings that little extra spice, especially when it comes to these, you know what I mean, what we see as Americans today. It's history. It's history. I think that's where it is too. Like I said, I'm not here to love America, but I'm just saying, I'm just naming the facts here. What makes these guys the best at MMA? And I think it is history. They've they have a fighting nature, right from day one. And that's kind of what that wrestling book I was reading, kind of states about how pro wrestling was so popular. And is that what we see as well? Did pro wrestling have a take in making the Americans who they are as well, for that little bit of that fighting spirit, and that it was normal to wrestle and to fight people to win an argument. You know what I mean? I disagree with you. Well, I disagree with you. Let's fight. Okay. You know, and then whoever won the fight won the argument. You know? Good strategy. Good strategy.
You were obviously right. You beat that guy up.
And I think that's what the biggest part. It all plays in together with pro wrestling, as always. Just always plays with MMA as much as that's why it's so popular in America, is because pro wrestling is so popular in America. And I think the early roots kind of entwine America to love, I think, wrestling and grappling arts, and these wrestling heats are real deals. It's got tons and tons of sponsorship around it, and these dudes go to the Olympics, like Henry Cejudo, obviously, like Daniel Cormier, even Dan Henderson, Matt Lindland as well, and are very successful. Then they just give their life for freestyle wrestling, and I can see why this is an easy out to move to pro wrestling or MMA, just because the one thing is they're so nuts for it, like we do see in a lot of these college sports. They're so nuts for this stuff, but the one thing is it doesn't pay. You can't go and be a wrestler and get paid like a professional, like an actual amateur wrestler, and go to heats and do stuff and get paid. That's just called amateur wrestling. You know what I mean? So obviously this is an easy out. They have the training regiment, so these dudes move to MMA. Is that what it is? We have all these jobless wrestlers roaming the earth, roaming the plains, and they have no choice, but that's what makes them good, is to join MMA, to join pro wrestling. So I think that's why we're just seeing, like I touched base on, it's just we're seeing the competition and the population with there's so many of these wrestlers with nothing to do. Is that what it is, Kelly? I don't know, man. It's one of the weirdest things. America has got it going on, but why not Brazil? Why not Russia? You know, and why not like a place like China? They got more population. You know what I mean?
It's probably less leisure time over there. Like, they don't have enough time to train. They gotta work.
I can see that. They do get a lot of holidays, though. That's the thing.
Yeah.
China is the only country that they get less holidays than we do. It's the only country in the world. Everyone else has a ton of holidays, and especially in Brazil. But I just think it's the funding. Mm-hmm. You know, they don't have that collegiate. You know, they have the population, they got the competition, but they don't have that collegiate training level where they have these high paid coaches and trainers and strength training and, you know, people crunching those numbers. You know, but in Russia, you know, you'd think they would, you know, stuff like that. So that's what I'm wondering. You know what I mean? All these other countries have the tools and the population to be able to pull off a move like America, but why hasn't it happened? Something in the water, in that milk, I tell you. Something in that milk. Hit us up on Twitter, American fans.
It might be USADA that's stopping the Russians.
Maybe you're right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Maybe you're right. Bum. Kelly getting a dig in there. Hit us up on Russian Twitter. At and new podcast. Hit us up.
There was that whole documentary on that government-funded steroid system they had going in Russia for the Olympics and whatnot.
I'm surprised people are surprised by that. You know what I mean? Russia's one of the cheatingest countries ever historically. Hey, like I said, man, where there's smoke, there's fire. And there's a fucking bonfire. A lot of people tested throughout the years. Like East Germany, too. Like it was super Russian funded. You know what I mean? What were you going to say, Kelly?
No hate, though, man. If you can do it and you pass, whatever, man.
If you're listening to the translated version in Russian of the And New podcast, they were just translating all the good stuff. They were just Russia is great talk. That's what I just constantly. So we're repeating Russia is great.
Russians are awesome. The country, they cheat a little bit.
A little bit.
So does the U.S.
The U.S. is smarter at it, though, I guess. Yeah. No, but I'm just saying, kind of a weird concept, and just kind of the idea popped in my mind. You know what I mean? How is all these American dudes doing it? Kind of made me think a little bit. You get your one little note on this show, America. You don't like it, you can get out. No, America's fun to visit. Not my town, though, buddy. Not my town. Fun to visit. America. It's fun to visit.
Just make sure you get health insurance.
Let's talk some wrestling. Round out the show with some WWE, as we always do. Surprise move this week on Monday Night Raw to have Becky Lynch make a surprise appearance on Raw. Huge move. Even bigger power move was the attack on Stephanie. Did not see that coming. They're totally trying to build the female Stone Cold Steve Austin here. And they got a good person to do it. The whole not seeing the Doctor saga with her, it's even more like a Stone Cold move for her not to see the Doctor and then to attack Stephanie McMahon. Then running outside the ring into Ronda backstage. I thought that was such a good... I rewound it a few times. I didn't really hear what Becky said. The microphone wasn't on her, so it was super, super quiet. I didn't catch what she said, but once again, those girls bringing goosebumps. I don't know if Ronda's using acting or if she actually does have a dislike for Becky because Becky turned the crowd on her. Somehow, this beloved fighter, movie star who had so much pop is now getting all this like John Cena style hate. It's just making for great TV. Good move to have Ruby Riott step in for Becky in the meantime if she is injured. If she's not injured, I don't think she is injured. It's all just work, I think, here, and we'll see what happens with that coming down the pipe. But good to see Ruby Riott. At least it's obviously a temporary role, but to see her fight against Ronda at Elimination Chamber, I think that's a great match. It was a good match for Ronda to beat up the rest of the Riott squad, and then Ruby Riott do a perfect heel move and back away and not give the fight. Perfect move by Ruby Riott. Glad to see Heavy Machinery back on Raw, but fuck, they had to lose. Good thing Morgan's not here. You can talk about the Revival because those bastards won. Revival win again. They got another goddamn chance, and it's the worst fucking thing because they're just slowing down the division by giving these guys any chance at all. Ugh. Raw tag team division sucks so bad. Giving Revival another shot at the titles at Elimination Chamber. That's not a match I want to look forward to. It better be on the dark matches on the pre-show because I do not want to watch that. The bully angle between Baron Corbin and Drew McIntyre picking on Kurt Angle is a gold move. But Braun Strowman wasn't going to stand aside and let this happen, and he let Drew McIntyre get these hands. So good move, good little rivalry with them. They're trying to find a spot for Strowman to fit, I think, for WrestleMania. I think this is a good move if they give Kurt Angle and Braun a show at WrestleMania. It's right around the corner. Maybe tag team up against Drew McIntyre and Baron Corbin again. Nikki Cross and Alicia Fox teaming up is just weird, but it's just weird enough to work. I think kind of putting the two crazy girls together, a good move for their tag team. Double J, giving him anything, it's terrible. I wasn't the biggest fan of him when he was an actual wrestler in his prime. He's good on the mic. He's a great bad guy. It was just never really my thing, and now we're seeing him. He comes out to zero pop. Like, no one even gives a shit about him or even knows who he is. Like, that was his first match in 20 years on Raw. Like, and it showed. He did decent in his match, but, and even after having the Road Dogg hype him up beforehand, and Road Dogg, doing his whole rant. Crazy. I don't know what they're doing with Double J here. Give him something. Thank the Lord Elias has saved the segment, though. Man. And it was the funniest thing, too. He's getting good, yelling at the crowd again. He said one of the funniest things, too, Kelly. There's like a guy, he's like just like mad at the crowd because he's like, when I come out, I want everyone to give me a standing ovation. He's like, you over there, I don't care if you have crutches. Get on your feet. It's not a great move. Like just shit like that to piss people off. Eat that up. So good. Just to attack a dude for having crutches. Oh, beautiful. Oh, but the shitty thing, though, is Elias gets hit by a guitar. Usually this guitar, it's wrestling, right, Kelly? And these guitars are, like, hauled out and they're made to break.
What?
He got hit by a guitar and the fucking thing didn't break. He got smoked in the back with it. It was not a guitar to be hitting the dude in the back with, and it looked fucking painful. It looked really painful. That brings us to Dana Brooke. She has got to go. Her acting skills are atrocious. Her in-ring ability is even worse. Dana Brooke is just not talented enough for this roster. Move her to NXT where she can hopefully get some more in-ring ability. It's rough. It's rough. They have a whole, like, she gets dissed by Natty too, and she goes on this huge monologue, and Natty wasn't even listening. She had her earbuds in. It was rough. It was a rough segment. Rough segment. Having Dean Ambrose lose to EC3 just solidifies his phasing out. Obviously, with him not re-signing his contract, I couldn't imagine the shit he's going to go through. And apparently they're rooming to feud him with Nia Jax, too. So they're going to have him lose to Nia Jax night after night. Oh, man. He should have never said he's not going to re-sign. That's a rough move. They probably obviously were pressuring him to re-sign. But, man, Dean Ambrose taking the hard road out. Does he even get a WrestleMania shot? It was kind of weird the whole night how they were announcing Kurt Angle was going to retire, but then not, and then having his match, and it ends in disqualification, so it leaves it open-ended for WrestleMania. I thought it was everyone's crying, and they're like, you know what I mean? They're like stopping in the hallway because there's a big rumor he's going to retire. So, but no one's actually saying it, Kelly. So it's really weird. So everyone in the background, everyone in the back's like shaking his hand and hugging him and like crying, and they're like, "Whatever you're gonna say, you know, you're my hero." It's like, but they're not saying, "I know you're gonna retire." Like, I don't know what you're gonna say, but just know I love you with all my heart. It's like people losing. So it was a rough segment. It was a rough lead up to it. I think they could have done a bit of a better job of it. And then for him not to even retire at the end, so it was leaving it really open ended on this one here. Don't just rip that bitch off like a Band-Aid. On to SmackDown Live. Not even Charlotte is safe from the bulldozer that is Becky Lynch, and the crowds that just follow her everywhere she goes. The deafening cheers, Kelly. It is nuts for Becky Lynch. And what a power move. She is John Cena-ing the show. She's on both shows. Very few people can do that. She's just bouncing from show to show because everybody wants Becky Lynch. Huge move to be on that. I hope she's getting paid for double going out Monday and going out Tuesday. Man, it's nothing can stop this bulldozer of Becky, this wrecking ball of Becky Lynch right now. Huge move again. Obviously, this anti-establishment move to slap Triple H in the face too. For Triple H calling her out as a fake and ducking Ronda Rousey. I thought it was a really good move. Triple H still bringing the fire. Obviously he's writing some good ass lines. If he's not writing them, if somebody else is writing them, he's doing a good little angle with Becky here. Who knows? You know, she's suspended still, so we'll find out what happens. They're obviously playing that one out a little bit too. She did that, my boys. The club lost. Hard loss. I kind of had to figure they were going to lose when they didn't even get an entrance. They got the Jobbers entrance, which they got an announced in-ring, so obviously the writing was on the wall. Good match, though, against Shinsuke Nakamura and Rusev. Good match for those guys. Usos finally cut a great promo. Man, did they ever cut a killer promo. I've been kind of tired of these promos of the Uso Penitentiary, but man, they killed it. They had a great promo. There was a great rhythm and rhyme they had there. They're great back and forth like they always have. Awesome move for the Usos. I've been a big critic of the other promos not being very good, and they knocked this one out of the park. Good for the Usos making a comeback, because I was kind of like, maybe these guys need to be juggled around. Maybe need something to be done with them, but here they solidify. They're here to stay. Shitty that Randy Orton has to bury Mustafa Ali. It's but Samoa Joe coming and attacking Orton was a great move. It's just shitty that we're still seeing a veteran here bury these up and coming guys. I think they have to have a give and take. And with Randy Orton, maybe it's not his contract to do that. He's not his contract to play ball. I did not expect for Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville to move on to Elimination Chamber. Huge move for them. Their tag team really getting some play, and we're still seeing Mandy getting the win over Naomi. Huge move. Classic heel move, obviously, for Eric Rowan, recycling Rowan to save Daniel Bryan from losing to Jeff Hardy. But again, we see Samoa Joe, the wrecking ball, pulling this NWO move, coming out and really, disrupting the match and attacking dudes. I'm really liking it. Samoa Joe, such an underused dude. Disrupts this match again. I hope if they give him like an NWO or a Bullet Club, I think that's a fucking great move. Because that's what they had in the original Bullet Club was Bad Luck Fale. was his name. He has no affiliation to the most of the Samoan families in the WWE and wrestling worldwide, but he was a really good wrestler, actually. A bigger dude, but he was a little bit shorter. Actually had a really good rivalry with Shinsuke in New Japan Pro Wrestling. So maybe they use him that way. I think that'd be a great move. But AJ Styles gets the last say at the end of the show. You know what I mean? Coming down. I think it's going to be a great elimination chamber. I cannot wait for that. SmackDown really had another great move. They're just throwing their stars in the end. Everyone beat each other up. And AJ Styles coming down at the end was just the cherry on top. SmackDown getting it done as well as Raw this week. Great shows. Halftime Heat was really cool. I checked that out too. We had the battle of the NXT guys that are forever going to be there in Adam Cole, Johnny Gargano, and Thomas Ciampa versus the battle of the rising stars, the guys who have the sky's the limit and who will be on the main roster one day in Aleister Black, Velveteen Dream, and my favorite, Ricochet. They did put on a great match for the halftime Heat. It was super action-packed, as you might imagine that it would have been for those 6 guys to square off in the ring. I thought, why didn't they have King of the Ring? Everyone wanted to bring this up with Morgan. No King of the Ring. It was a really good event. I wonder why they got rid of that. Superstar shakeup right around the corner here. Maybe it'll be announced this Monday here. We will find out when it comes to that. Who knows what's going to happen right? I thought they usually did it right after Royal Rumble, and I think that's what we're seeing here. Maybe a little bit later, maybe a little bit earlier. I can't remember. It always so much shit going on throughout the year. With that, what superstars are going to move from brand to brand? Big news coming out of WWE is there's a rumor of the second rumor to come across of who's going to be inducted to the WWE Hall of Fame, and it's going to be the Hart Foundation with Jim the Animal Neidhart, obviously passing recently. Maybe they give him the nod, and Bret Hart being double time enshrined, as well as the Mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart, giving those guys the double nod too, which is a very nice gesture to all of them, especially Bret Hart and how great his career was. But who knows? Just a rumor right now, but it makes sense. That's for damn sure. Other big news in the independent scene for wrestling is Kenny Omega and the Lucha Brothers officially announced that they're signing with AEW and to be at Double or Nothing. A huge move, I think, for my dudes, the Lucha Brothers, Pentagon Jr. especially, getting paid. For those guys to come out of Mexico and to do as good as they are right now, to be such a sought-after team, hats off to them, and their in-ring ability speaks for itself. For 2 dudes who really can't speak English, to be able to just leave it all in the ring as they have, always hats off. They just had their great match against LAX on the taped TNA match in Mexico. That was a great tag team match, especially to do it in Mexico. Really, really nice touch. Let's break down the Elimination Chamber. Can't wait. Elimination Chamber, created by Eric Bischoff. Great event. Strowman versus Corbin. Weird matchup there. Could kind of be done with that. Hopefully that'll be at the end of that rivalry. Bobby Lashley versus Finn Balor for the Intercontinental Championship. Ronda Rousey versus Ruby Riott. Obviously it's going to be a squash match. Still having 205 Live, I guess, here. Buddy Murphy's takes on Tozawa. Daniel Bryan versus AJ Styles, Jeff Hardy, Randy Orton, and Samoa Joe is going to be an amazing Elimination Chamber match. Always love it when the champion's in the match because anything can happen. But obviously, I think we'll see some interference by recycling Rowan here, obviously. The Miz and Shane versus the Usos. And then the women's tag team elimination chamber match for the WWE Women's Tag Team Championship belts. We're going to have an new Women's Tag Team Champions. Out of all of them in the match, though, it's a real toss-up. I love the Iconics. I love what Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville are doing. But I'd have to give it to, the easy one is, the Riot Squad, Liv Morgan and Sarah Logan in it, huh? I'd have to give it to Nia Jax and Tamina to win it. That's obviously the easy choice. Who do they give it to, though? I do not know. And this week, one of the biggest things that happened to us here at the new studio, Kelly's new Ruckus Let's fire that bad boy up. Brr, 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 brr. Check it out. We'll load up some shit on Twitter. Ripping around town in the new Rip Roaring Ruckus. It'd be a little bit odd to be double for me, you and I to be double on that. I think I'm gonna pass on that one. I'm gonna pass on that one, but still, can't wait to give her a test run, man. It was a sweet ass ride. You see, you drove for quite a long time.
I drove like 17 kilometers just from where I bought it to where I live. And yeah, no, it was pretty good. I'm still breaking it in, right? But you can kind of smell like the chemical burn off on the way home from the new factory, everything.
What a smell!
And yeah, it was good. It goes up to 40 pretty quickly. Then it goes up to 50 a little bit slower. And then after that, it's kind of like a slow climb to 60, 65, something like that. So it's nice though. It's fun. I love it. It's one of those twist and go vehicles. You know,
twist and go.
There's no shifting of gears or anything. It's just fun. It's just fun to ride. I like it. On the Ruckus, get one.
Yeah, get yourself one. Get yourself one. Well, anything else you want to talk about, Kelly? Take some Ruckus videos, Ruckus tours.
Yeah. I got a Twitter. Sorry, I got an Instagram page up right now.
Oh, sweet.
BC Ruck Rider. BC RUCKRIDER on Instagram. And I wanted to talk about Apex Legends. New game.
Ooh, all right,
Played
yeah.
it a few times on Xbox. It already hit 25 million players after the first week. Basically, what it is like you got 3 players. It's better with friends, obviously.
Of course.
And you launch onto this map kind of like Fortnite, but it has like a Unreal Tournament kind of feel to it. I think it's by the same makers of Titanfall. I don't know if you ever played Titanfall, so it kind of feels like Titanfall, but you can't wall run, and there's no Titans that actually fall.
Oh, so you're just like the person.
Yeah, you're like the person. It's more like old school Call of Duty, but there is like a few add-ons that you gotta kind of figure out. But it's fairly easy to figure out. And so you drop in on the map, and like Fortnite, you collect weapons, but you're actually in first-person shooter, like Call of Duty style. And you can revive your teammates once they get knocked down. But if they do die, you can still have a chance to like take their tags off like this coffin that falls, and the coffin has all the weapons and stuff in it. Usually it gets looted by the other team though. So you could take their tag and you could take it to like a relaunch center, and you could respawn on these relaunch centers if they actually get you there.
Wow.
And you just come down on a ship and kind of jump off, and you're back with your squad. So you still have a chance to win even if you're knocked down. And yeah, it's just a lot of fun. You just no building. It's just straight combat, and it's kind of like Call of Duty if there's no camping, because like Fortnite, you still have that circle that goes in and it kind of moves around. So you got to keep moving. You can't just stay in one place and just camp there the whole game.
Nice. I think that's what's really changed the first-person shooter genre is the battle royale style, because of that. Everyone hates campers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's the worst.
It's annoying as shit. It's ruined some Call of Duties.
Oh, exactly. Big time. But this, you just create the aspect of the conflict of forcing people to run around and someone's going to get shot.
And it's free.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest selling point, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, it's just keep comparing it to Fortnite in the aspect that you gotta buy skins and stuff like that if you want like unique skins to your character, but I don't really care about that.
Yeah,
like that.
Exactly.
Plus you can still earn points just by playing to unlock all these things anyway, so it's not like a big deal.
Nice.
It's just if you want to like jump ahead.
Of course. Yeah, no, I'm down for that, man. I'm totally down for that. Obviously free, and I've heard it's blowing up.
Yeah, man.
It's totally blowing up on the video game
I'll be
universe
playing
right now.
for a little bit tonight before I go to bed. That's for sure, man. It's addicting. It is so good. It's
nice.
It's finally a COD with no camping.
Nice.
And yeah, just like the whole gameplay it's kind of like if you just had like one game style, like you know how Call of Duty has like different styles, like survival or like team deathmatch. Or so if you took the very best game style, like gameplay, and that was it, and just perfected it, this is the Apex.
Nice.
Man. It's a great game. I recommend it.
Nice. Wow. We're not being paid by Apex, because they don't make any money.
Apex Legends. The only part I don't like, so I will knock it a
Oh,
little bit
yeah.
just to prove we're not
What's the
getting
cons?
paid. I don't like the whole character selection thing. Like, everybody has their like own special ability and things like that. I would think it'd be cooler if you could unlock like what special ability you want, but still have whatever character you want to pick.
I
Like,
see, yeah.
yeah, like it has like the whole like shield guy is like a big slow guy, you know what I mean? And there's another guy who can like grapple and all this stuff. Like, I think like I don't like the whole character type selection, like the mech. Like, you want to be a medic,
Right.
so you're gonna be a medic the whole game. What if you don't want to play a medic halfway through because everybody else is playing like
Oh,
too
really? So, like,
defensively?
once you've chosen, you have to stick with that.
Yeah, I mean, you
Oh,
can still
shitty.
pick up the gun and it still does the same amount of damage and stuff
Right.
like that, but your special ability may not help you through the game.
Right, of course. It's going to be situational.
Yeah, it's going to be situational. So that's the only knock I'll give it.
Huh. Still, well worth the price.
Yes.
Free games these days, man, just taking off. Yeah, I think it was something you saw on cell phones.
Yeah.
But now the free games are just really taking off, obviously for their in-game content.
I noticed that a lot of people do like those whole character things, and then they get like the whole like I don't know, they get obsessed, so they get like actual like action figures and shirts.
Oh,
with
of course,
them and stuff
yeah.
like that. So I don't know. Maybe they did it strategically. I just prefer it the other way.
Of course. Building your own personal character rather than having to go to a cookie cutout of a one style fits all.
Yeah.
What are we at here? Oh, pretty good. Pretty good. Nice. No, I'm going to check it out. I'm going to download it when I get home. We can play tomorrow, man.
Nice.
All right, folks. Show number 23 in the books. Well, for co-host extraordinaire Kelly, my name is Steven, and you've been listening to the new podcast. Signing off.